Good evening, everybody. This is the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, August 11th, 2020.
The United States of America.
Does anybody from the board have anything from open forum? Seeing none, so we have to wait 3 minutes before we can open our public hearing. We have minutes for approval.
So moved.
Second, aye.
Aye. Yes.
Abstain.
And aye. Consent agenda, free community yoga event to benefit Mass COVID-19 Relief Fund.
So moved.
Second, aye.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
And aye. A public hearing on a request for a change of manager for the all alcohol club license for NAB American Legion Post 437 Inc.
Everything is in order.
So moved. Second.
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Aye.
Establish a charge for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Working Group. The DEI committee is being established to review the town's departmental policies and procedures to ensure that they foster an environment of diversity and inclusion. The town manager has already arranged for cultural awareness and diversity training, which will be required for all town employees. It's also being offered to all board and committee members. These conversations and discussions need to take place in an atmosphere of respect and openness. The board is committed to doing this work, but it will require people to start talking with one another and not at one another.
This committee would serve as an advisory group to the select board and the school committee.
The school side has a diversity inclusion team that is moving forward, and this isn't in place of or to take over that team at all.
I have questions like what qualifies somebody to be on this committee? How are we going to select who's on it? How is this assessment going to be done without the virtue of professionals? Are we assessing town employees? Are we assessing school employees? Are we assessing boards and committees? Are we assessing the 23,000 residents in town where a lot of this behavior happens as well?
I did not take this to be a committee that was going to be assessing individuals or people or committees or boards. My vision was that it was going to be looking at and assessing policies and our procedures, see what, if any, impact they're having on our community, on our residents. If we have a policy that in some way is discriminatory, that needs to be corrected.
I don't know if we would want to define what that looks like, or if we want the committee to define what the community assessment could look like.
Another action or activity that one of these committees might typically undertake would be to say, okay, we want to make sure we've got some kind of dialogue and engagement with, say, the LGBTQ community or the Jewish community, and make sure that they've had some sort of connection and some sort of opportunity to listen.
I'm wondering, is this really a charter or is this really a first steps? I mean, that this charter will evolve with time. Once you get to the assessment phase, there's a phase two. The end goal is not an assessment. The end goal is action based upon that assessment.
There needs to be something that we can define. This is so broad right now. I can't support it in this way, but I do support the need to move forward and continue to define.
I would be a lot more confident in the judgment of this committee than I would be in our ability to get very specific at this point about what deliverables should look like.
I think we need to start to do something, and we need to put something in place here so that we can start to establish, to have a committee to do, I think, all, the things that we're talking about, where are the opportunities? What are our policies? We need to hear from people, from the diverse communities in our town. What do they think is missing? What do they think is needed? Because the five of us certainly can't answer that question.
If people feel like there's some improvements to be made here with some of the editing, we can take on the final version for a vote for next time.
Community update on the COVID-19 situation and impacts on town operations.
We decided we better get going on the special town meeting, and due to the COVID situation, we feel it probably needs to be held outside. The field is available.
I'll make that motion with moving the closing of the warrant at our meeting on September 8th.
Second.
I saw Scott's, for the record, I saw his mouth move yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Update on 2020 state primary election and request to sign the 2020 state primary warrant.
We're getting your ballots out. You can also drop off an application as well as the ballot in the box behind Town Hall. If you want to vote in the primary and you're not enrolled in a party, you need to tell us which ballot you want. We will be having early voting in person as well. And then, of course, there's the actual election day. which we will be doing in all the regular precincts. Just be fine. People should always feel free to give us a call, send me an email if they have questions.
The last day to register to vote in the primary is August 22nd.
So
Jody,
we're
is-
asking you to vote to sign the 2020 state primary warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Fiscal year 2021 financial update, including CARES Act and FEMA reimbursement.
Our new growth hasn't been certified yet, but I believe it exceeds our estimate. Without knowing what the schools need, we're getting in better shape. I was going to update you on the rec department after school program, but we have not gotten this figured out yet.
I make a motion to approve a comp day for our employees.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Review of the town common usage policy and consider establishing a flag policy. This is a continuing discussion that came out of the request several weeks ago. There were questions asked, do we have a policy, what the policy is, and do we need to amend that policy? We actually do have a flag policy. Town council, I believe, has provided us with some drafts of some revisions to both the use of the town common as well as the flag policies. Paragraph 15 talks about the applicant shall be required to carry insurance. Have we always required that?
Generally speaking, no, we don't.
Seems to me a little excessive if you're requiring, yoga instructors to do it, and perhaps we could just modify that a bit.
If it's never been your practice to require insurance, we can take it out altogether, or we could put in some more objective cutoff.
I think of, hopefully we'll be able to do this again, but I think of prom night. Are we going to start to require insurance for that? I think that's a rabbit hole that we don't really want to go down right now.
So I guess I would suggest I bring this back to our next meeting because there's been a lot of changes here.
Now let's go to the flag policy. We did have a flag policy. I wouldn't call it a robust flag policy in light of our request and approval, at least for the flag of India. We have a new policy that's been drafted for us.
Aren't there federal or state guidelines that would help us just mimic those? And like all good federal and state laws, they don't really exist much and they don't really stand up. So
This policy was premised on the possibility that the town would obtain a second permanent flagpole and then would take requests from residents to fly different types of flags. It's just to give the town this layer of protection to make it clear no person is going to have a right to have their flag flown, but board is going to have discretion on a case-by-case basis.
And so do we just negate the ability to have our sandwich board signs?
So we do have a sandwich board policy that is controlled by my office.
I would ask the town manager, send me a copy of that policy, and then we can incorporate it into this.
We can put it back on for our 8:25 agenda. Old and new business. The first one is consider reaffirming prior vote to sponsor a zoning bylaw amendment to reflect inclusive language and other ministerial changes and refer the matter to the planning board for their recommendation.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
yes.
We have a request from the Town and School Safety Task Force to appoint 5 residents at large.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
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 Aye. A request to approve 2020 annual reappointments for committee and board members.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Then we have a request to designate a member of the select board to the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. Anybody want to volunteer?
Yeah, I'll volunteer. I'll do it.
Are there any board reports or updates?
I was connected with Rabbi Mike, the leader of the temple in Acton. He had participated in the Westford Academy Diversity Day. He said he thought that was a very effective event, and he strongly recommended that we restart and continue. His main recommendation, though, was that we hold some sort of forum to promote the understanding in the community of how hate speech and a swastika in particular affects the Jewish community and really all marginalized communities.
Town managers report.
We received a request for you to delegate to the Council on Aging the authority to execute a Westford rental assistance program with landlords and tenants.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye.
And then we have a request from the Council on Aging to accept a grant.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
We have a request to expend $5,000 from the lease of town buildings revolving account for repairing, restoring, and mitigating 2 water intrusion damages.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Yes.
I
Aye.
Aye.
have a request to approve contracts, purchase orders.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
And aye.
A motion to adjourn.
And I'm going to do this by raised hands. Everybody in favor? Everybody stay safe and be well, and good night, Westford.